Christians are one of the most persecuted groups in the world today, with millions facing discrimination, harassment, and violence because of their faith. This phenomenon is not limited to any particular region or country, but is a global issue that affects Christians in various parts of the world. There are several reasons why Christians are persecuted in society today, and these reasons are complex and multifaceted. One of the main reasons for Christian persecution is religious intolerance. In many countries, Christians are a minority, and their faith is not tolerated by the majority religion. This is particularly true in countries with a Muslim or Hindu majority, where Christians are often seen as infidels or outsiders. In these countries, Christians may face discrimination, harassment, and violence simply because of their faith. For example, in countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan, Christians are often targeted by extremist groups who view them as enemies of Islam. Another reason for Christian persecution is the rise of secularism and atheism. In many Western countries, there is a growing trend towards secularism and atheism, which has led to a decline in Christian values and traditions. This has resulted in Christians being marginalized and persecuted, particularly in the public square. For example, in countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, Christians are often mocked and ridiculed for their beliefs, and are excluded from public debates and discussions. This has created a culture of intolerance and hostility towards Christians, which can lead to persecution and discrimination. Politics is also a significant factor in Christian persecution. In many countries, Christians are seen as a threat to the ruling party or government, particularly if they are involved in advocacy or activism. For example, in countries like China and North Korea, Christians are often persecuted because they are seen as a threat to the communist regime. In these countries, Christians may face arrest, imprisonment, and torture simply because of their faith. Additionally, the media plays a significant role in perpetuating Christian persecution. The media often portrays Christians in a negative light, depicting them as intolerant, bigoted, and extremist. This has created a culture of mistrust and hostility towards Christians, which can lead to persecution and discrimination. For example, in the aftermath of the Charlie Hebdo attacks in France, many Christians were wrongly blamed for the violence and were subjected to harassment and intimidation. Furthermore, the failure of governments to protect Christians is also a significant factor in Christian persecution. In many countries, governments fail to protect Christians from violence and discrimination, often due to corruption, incompetence, or indifference. For example, in countries like Nigeria and Iraq, governments have failed to protect Christians from extremist groups who have targeted them with violence and intimidation. This has created a culture of impunity, where perpetrators of violence against Christians are rarely brought to justice. Finally, the lack of awareness and education about Christian persecution is also a significant factor. Many people are unaware of the scale and severity of Christian persecution, and often view it as a distant or abstract issue. This lack of awareness and education has created a culture of indifference and complacency, where Christian persecution is often ignored or downplayed. For example, in many Western countries, Christian persecution is often seen as a minor issue or is relegated to the fringes of public debate. In conclusion, Christian persecution is a complex and multifaceted issue, with many different factors contributing to it. These factors include religious intolerance, the rise of secularism and atheism, politics, the media, the failure of governments to protect Christians, and the lack of awareness and education about Christian persecution. To address this issue, it is essential that we raise awareness and educate people about the scale and severity of Christian persecution, and work to create a culture of tolerance, acceptance, and respect for all people, regardless of their faith or background. Only by working together can we help to end Christian persecution and create a world where all people can live in peace and freedom.